These are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. This is Mark Raymakers with Insurance Agency Marketing Services. Thank you for taking time to join us here this morning on our National Guardian Life Funeral Trust webinar. We have John Enting with us today, and John has done a number of these with us. He's brought the product to us here a number of years ago, and again, this is for those of you who may have been on here before, I do see some names I recognize. This has been an incredible product that we've introduced to the portfolio, and it's very unique. And so the nice thing is, and John's probably going to hit on this, that you're not going to run into any competition really on this particular type of product. And so this morning we're going to go through it, and I'm going to turn this over to John here in just a quick minute. But this is a recorded webinar, so we'll be able to email this over to you. You can watch it as much as often and whenever you choose. But what I'm going to do real quick here is I'm going to go through a few things with you, tell you about what we can do to help you grow your business. And one of the things that we do is training. And so you'll notice that we have a webinar scheduled every day of the week because we obviously want to keep you in the know with what's going on with products, sales concepts, and ideas. And this here is a training event we have coming up. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a poll out here real quick. And what this poll basically is going to tell us is if you have interest in attending one of these all expense paid events. So if you just mark yes, we'll go ahead or no, of course. If you're interested in knowing more about this, interested in potentially attending an event. Now we have scheduled all of those for this year. But what we do have is probably 3 on the docket for next year. So that means they'll be scattered throughout the year. We do have one next week, which is full. But basically what we do is we bring in presenters from across the country. John is one of them. And these top producers will come in and share some of their most successful sales techniques and ideas. There will be training as well on seminars. We'll talk a little bit about product. That's not what this is about. This is to help you grow your life and annuity business. And what happens is we pay for your airfare. We pay for your meals. We pay for your lodging. So there's no out-of-pocket expense for attendees. And so if you want to be on the list so that we can send you an invitation for any upcoming events, mark yes on the poll here, and we'll certainly add you to the list of interested parties. I do not have dates for 2017, but generally we have one in the spring, one in midsummer, and then one in the fall. So again, this is an opportunity for you to grow your life and your annuity business. There's a lot of agents out there that are concerned about DOL. We'll have some issues that address that as far as what you can do to prepare yourself, as well as some things you can do to maybe potentially replace some of the business, or not necessarily replace, but complement what you're doing to combat what's happening here with the DOL. So great opportunity. If you're not getting free training now or getting any training at all, I certainly encourage you to consider attending one of these events. We have seen a lot of agents that attend this see a increase in their business just by applying these sales techniques. So let's get this poll closed down here. So if you're interested, let's mark yes, and we'll get you out an application as well as an agenda. Okay, I'm closing the poll. Let's move on here. Okay, I'm sorry. New producer bonus. This is something that you get appointed with insurance agency marketing. What we do is you'll see there's 3 different levels here. So if you look at, for example, 100,000 level, that would pertain dollar for dollar for annuities or single premium life. And then, of course, there would be a derivative of that for traditional life. But for today's purposes, we're going to talk single premium because that's really what this product is generally sold as. If you write $100,000 in this product, and you can see John will tell you how to do that, your first choice is if you want to redeem, you can get a $750 cash bonus or a 2-year subscription to the website newsletter service. If you don't have that, I would certainly encourage you to consider that, whether you earn that or you want to buy into that. Matt Neal, who sets up the webinar here, I would call our office and ask for Matt, and he'll tell you how to do that. He can get that up and running for you in 1 business day. Or you might just choose to go with an iPad. I know a lot of companies are going towards that paperless app, and this is a super simple way to get an application completed utilizing your iPad. Next level is a $300,000. You might go ahead and wait till you get to that. You can take advantage of the full Social Security program and 3,000-piece postcard mailing. This does require some study on your part. You can certainly buy into that program here if you like, or you can earn it. But this is a great way to get in front of more senior buying units. You're not going to obviously make any money by telling them how to file Social Security, but it's in the the opportunity that you have to look at and review their portfolio. So that's one great way to grow your business. Secondly, there's the $2,000 matching marketing money to promote your business, or you might just choose to go with a $1,500 gift card. Some of you might want to wait till you get to the $500,000 level, at which point you could choose either the 5,000 piece mailing and seminar coaching with Matt Gill, or the 4,000 piece mailing and seminar coaching with Dave Pimper. I will tell you that both of these gentlemen do go to the training academy that we had a poll on, and you will have an opportunity to see their seminar, what they do at their seminar as far as their presentation. Now you can also buy into that, but if you decide that you want to earn that after $500,000 level, either one of them do a phenomenal job. That's how they qualify for so many trips. That's how they make such an outstanding living in what they're doing, is through their seminar approach. Lastly, there's the Ritz-Carlton Travel Rewards program. You might just decide that you want to go ahead and take a vacation, and you can do that as a third option there at the $500,000 level. Okay, so creative services. Again, I mentioned Matt Neal. He sets the website. But if you're not getting the support that you need right now as far as marketing yourself in one way or another, you can see that there's a number of different things that we can do for you here, anywhere from the basic logo, business card, branding of yourself, all the way to television advertisements. We can help you with that. And so if you're not doing something like that now, or you're not getting that type of support now, please call and ask for Matt Neal, and he'll walk you through what we can do to help you in supporting that side of your business as well. And one thing I want to mention real quick here is that if you're writing business with us and you're not taking advantage of the marketing reimbursement, you can utilize those dollars to take advantage of the creative services slide that I just showed you here, from the very beginning all the way, from branding all the way up to the television advertisements. So keep that in mind, and certainly take advantage of that program as well. Okay, so that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn over to John. John, I think I can hear you moving around over there, so I think we're all good to go. So thanks for taking time. And I'll just say real quick, John is actually producing himself, so he's taken time out of his busy day, his opportunity to sit in front of clients and prospects to help us this morning. So again, thank you so much, John, for your help on this.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely.
So good morning, everybody. Today, obviously, we're going to talk about the NGL Funeral Trust funding and the opportunities that it does present to you out there. Just a little background on me. I know he said many of you on here may have attended this before, but I have an agency in Columbus, Ohio. I have a couple different offices. I do a lot of my marketing through seminars. But I also get a lot of referrals from my clients, and this is one of the products that we're finding that we're getting more referrals on simply by asking the people if they know who we can help. So I'm out doing what you do every day. I'm seeing the same age range of people that you're seeing. Probably the only thing I'm doing different that's allowing me to write a lot of business through this product and through National Guardian Life is I'm bringing up the conversation and I'm asking the questions to get the client interested. So what I'm going to do today is share some of that with you and how I proceed in getting them to move forward. And we'll talk about this opportunity and how maybe you can implement this into your business. So like I said, today what we'll do is we'll talk about the opportunity that exists with this product. This product was brought to me about, I'm going to say 11 years ago now, from a very good friend of mine who was a mentor to me. At that point, I didn't know anything about it, but I love the word opportunity because I know if you work it through, good things happen. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the trust that we use to protect the client's money. We'll talk about the product that's used to fund the trust. We'll go through just a couple presentation ideas and tools that we use, and we'll talk a little bit about the company, National Guardian Life itself. But first, I always like to talk about opportunity, because if you don't act on an opportunity, that's all it is just an opportunity that's laying there for you. Like I said, this was brought to me. Back when it was brought to me, I didn't know anything about it at all. But today I consider myself to be pretty much an expert on it, and we've sold many cases through National Guardian Life. And really, when you think about it, it's no different than what you're doing with your clients now. If you're going to do planning for a client, you got to take some information from them, bring the topic up, consider the options, get the plan into place and figure out where you're going to get the money to fund the plan. And I'll share with you some ideas on what we do, again, to move clients forward into that. So, I always like to talk about this because I get questions from agents that are now part of our program. What's funeral and final expenses? They really aren't any different. When someone passes away, someone's going to have to determine the services, pay the bill, and then the question becomes, is it going to be prior to death that gets their affairs in order, or will it be, like in my personal case, the survivors afterwards? My mom and dad divorced when I was 2. I was the youngest of 5 kids. I wasn't real close with my father, but when my dad died on January 21st of 2011, I found myself sitting in a funeral director's office, and I was getting a lot of questions asked to me, like, what was your dad's mother's maiden name? What was his highest rank in the military? What was his favorite flower, his favorite hymn? These were all things that I didn't know answers to. And I really, at that point, it hit home that what we actually do for our clients that I could never get accomplished with my father was really what the value of this whole program is. And I'll talk to you not only about how we fund it, but also the brochure that's provided by National Guardian Life, so that when someone does pass away, you know their final expenses are taken care of, and then you also know that there's a guide there for someone to be able to answer the questions that they're going to get from that funeral director. So there's really 2 ways to pay for your funeral. If you're going to do it in advance, the first one is what they call the pre-need side. That's where you go into a funeral home, you pick out your casket and all those things, and you start pre-planning your funeral through the funeral home. And then there's our side of the fence, which is the final expense side. That's where we're asking them to put a certain amount of money away to pay for the anticipated expenses that are coming down the road. So how much does a funeral cost? Today's funerals, I like this first part of it because it says they cost more than you might think. I've had some clients that have passed away here in the last couple months. The average funeral right now in Columbus is anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000, and again, that's not anything elaborate. That's just taking into account all the costs that go along with a funeral. So when I see this $9,500, when I talk to my clients, I'm always talking to them about that $12,000 to $15,000 range. And you'll see a little bit later on why that is not only good for them, but it's also good for you as an agent. So again, one of the questions you can ask them, to a client is, if something happened to you yesterday, how would your funeral be paid for? And then one of the important things to do is to listen to what they say, because you're going to hear different answers, and those are going to help you pivot into bringing up the subject of doing the planning with you and getting it out of the way. So like I said, there's a big opportunity out there. This survey is pretty solid. 72% of the people thought it was a good idea to pre-plan, but 64% had not taken the steps to do so. And one of the reasons that I think that this is because most couples don't wake up on a bright sunny day and say, hey, you know what, let's go down and pay for our funeral and plan our death. It's just not a real exciting subject. Your clients are no different than mine. They know it's a necessity and they know it's something that they're going to have to face, but they put it off because really there's nothing exciting about walking down to a funeral home. My friend is a funeral director, and he tells me that most of the prepaid plans that are done when another family member passes away, and then it hits home with the other people and they start doing their pre-planning through the funeral home. So again, your clients aren't any different than the ones I'm working with, but the beautiful thing about this opportunity is the market is huge. And if we look at the stats on that, 80 million people are going to file for Social Security over the next 20 years. So we've got the right product. We're in the right marketplace with the right people, and the majority of the people that we're talking to have money, and that's what it takes to fund this. And then again, by 2025, there's going to be twice as many seniors as there are today. So a big opportunity and a good opportunity for you to become familiar with this and to be able to present this to your clients and pick up those dollars that are otherwise may go to the funeral home. So here's the thing that I talk about with my clients. At some point in life, people are going to need some type of nursing care. And when we look at the cost of care, I know here in Ohio for a good facility, it's about $84,000 a year. So when we talk to clients about this, the reason we do it is many of those people are going to need to qualify for Medicaid because, as we all know, 93% of the population doesn't have any type of a long-term care policy. So when we talk to our clients, we're pointing this out. We're saying, hey, this is a future problem. Let us show you some ways where we can help you protect some of this money if indeed you're not going to buy any long-term care insurance or do any other planning to protect what you've worked hard for. So when we talk about this now, that's all fine and well, but you got to bring it all together and see how it fits for the client. And really, it's pretty basic in the way it works. We're going to take financial protection of life insurance and the advantages of an irrevocable funeral trust, and we're going to combine those. And what that's going to allow the client to do is to plan ahead so that their kids aren't in a situation like I found myself in with my father, where there's already a plan in place, there's direction on what needs to be done, and then we're going to use that trust to hold the funds because we're effectively spending those assets down. When we put money into the funeral trust, we're basically getting it from a countable asset over to a non-countable asset, and this will definitely help them during that Medicaid process if they ever go into a point where they have to start spending down for their care. So the trusts themselves, we'll talk about them a little bit. NGL's Irrevocable Trust gives you some advantages with the client's money. We're going to get protection from creditors. Any benefits that are paid out are going to be paid out 100% income tax free. The funds are available immediately to the funeral home. And here's the big kicker. The trusts are free. I have a relationship with actually an attorney right next door here to my office who refers me clients for this program. And he's an elder law attorney. And it's amazing what people will pay for trust to protect their money, and for this, it's free. There's no cost to them. Everyone's going to qualify for the trust assignment. I'll go over with you how you want to do that based on their current medical condition. And then the death proceeds, we're going to use them to pay the funeral expenses. We don't have any probate costs or delays. And the real important thing here is the funds are totally portable. So in the event that the client moves out of state, when you pre-plan with a funeral home, you could be locked into that funeral home. Well, if you move to Florida and you want to be, you die in Florida and your pre-plan is with a funeral home in Ohio, well, you're going to have to get back here to exercise this. With this, the funds can be used with any funeral home at all. So it's really kind of nice because with the irrevocable trust and the insurance, it combines it to give them a lot of protection. And really, that's what clients are looking for these days. They're aware, believe me, your clients are aware that if they get sick and go to a nursing home, that they're going to have to start spending their assets, and we're going to show them some ways to preserve those assets. So I like to show this next slide. This just shows you how the trust compares to traditional savings vehicles. And you can look there for yourself, but if you go to the bottom, you can see that across the bottom of the board, everything that we're looking for on protection of money gets accomplished by the use of the funeral trust. So how does the trust work? This is really nice, and I'm going to say something before I go into this. When you're licensed with National Guardian Life, the materials and the PowerPoints that they give you to work with a client are really nice because we can tell a client something and those are words that they're trying to digest, or we can show them this graph here, and basically what we would be saying to a client to show them how it works is, hey, look, if you think about it, you're really not buying anything today. You're repositioning money. So we're using money that they already have from savings, maybe an old life policy that the death benefit is getting close to equal of the cash value. And we're saying to them, what we're going to do is we're going to put these funds into a policy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to assign that policy to the Irrevocable Funeral Trust. And what's going to happen there is those funds are going to earn tax-free interest until that money is needed at the time of death. At the time of death, what's going to happen is that contract is going to get paid to the funeral home within 48 hours. Example, we just had a client pass away here about a month ago. We had a $15,000 contract plus some interest. It got paid to the funeral home. The total cost of the funeral was about 14 grand. The extra, I think, was 1,500 bucks. That got paid back to the estate. So the nice thing about the trust is it's going to pay that funeral provider quickly, and when we do our training for the licensed agents, which I think is coming up on the 18th of the month, I'm going to show you how to overcome an objection from people such as, well, you know what, we already own life insurance. I'll show you how to get through that and get them to see why it's a good opportunity to put the money into the funeral trust. So we'll talk a little bit. There's two different trusts with National Guardian Life. They have the Funeral Expense Trust. Now, in Ohio, and we'll show you a state chart here in a minute because I know there's people from different states on here. But in Ohio, we're allowed to put up to $15,000 per spouse into the Funeral Expense Trust. So when I started doing this, I met with an elder law attorney and I said, hey, look, if you're trying to protect money from a nursing home, what is the first thing you would do? And he said, well, we would use any vehicle that we could to get money off the table. And so I shared this product with him. He said, this is perfect. So we would maximize $15,000 each per spouse. And what that does is it gets that money off the table immediately. So if they were applying for Medicaid or SSI, then that money is now not a countable asset. And then again, like I showed you on the previous slide, the trust is going to pay the funeral home, and then any excess funds will go to the estate. But we do have cases, like one I just got issued today, I just saw it at National Guardian Life, where we had a client that wanted to give money to their daughter, and they want to make sure that she gets this money. So what we did is we were allowed to put up to $100,000 per spouse into the estate planning trust. The difference is that money is not going to be excluded from a Medicaid look back until 5 years. Now again, in our training, I'll show you where that 5-year does not usually become a problem, and I'll share with you the story that we tell clients to get them to move forward into this. So what happens is after that money's been in there for 5 years, if they get sick and go to a nursing home, that money's excluded. It can't be brought back into the estate and spent down. So again, if you can have either one of these trusts, but the maximum amount of money you can put in is $100,000. So in Ohio, I can do $15,000 in the funeral trust, then I could do another $85,000 into the estate planning trust, or I could do the whole $100,000 into the estate planning trust. So let's talk for a minute if I did the whole $100,000. What would happen is it would be the same thing as the funeral trust. The first money would come out to pay the funeral expenses, and then any excess funds are returned to a designated beneficiary. So even if the client passes away during that first 5-year period, that money's coming back out and being paid to a beneficiary, probate-free and tax-free. So the next question I usually get from agents that we train is, well, how do I know when to use which trust? So on the next slide here, you'll see we broke down for you on which trust that we should use and when. So with the elder law attorney next door that I have the agreement with, he does a lot of crisis planning. So these are people, maybe somebody's already in the nursing home, maybe they're getting ready to go in, and now this family's in crisis. They can see these $7,000, $8,000 bills starting to come in. So what we will do is he will have me in. We'll immediately, if it's a married couple, we'll do 2 funeral expense trusts. We'll get that 30 grand right off of the table. So this funeral expense trust would be, maybe Medicaid's very possible within the next 5 years or immediately, or maybe you get a client that says, you know what, I'm not really worried about Medicaid, I'm healthy, I don't think I'm going to go into a nursing home anytime soon, but what I do want to do is I just want to know my funeral expenses are paid, and I want the assurance that that money's protected now. So that's good for the funeral expense trust. For the estate planning trust, that's where Medicaid's a non-issue. Maybe now, or like the client we just did business with, they're very healthy unless there's something, out of the blue that comes up. They're not going into a nursing home in the next 5 years, or maybe never. But what they do want to do is they want to easily transfer that wealth to their children. It also works good for people who want to give money to charities, because we have a lot of clients who say, I want to give money to a charity. And that's a very noble thing. But I got news for you. If you go into a nursing home and you get sick and have to start spending all your money, there's no guarantee that that money's going to go to a charity. So if you already have money set aside that you're wanting to go to the charity, why not put it in the estate planning trust and know that it's 100% protected? And if you get sick and go in a nursing home down the road, at least that money's going exactly where you want it. So children or charity, it's a real opportunity to use these trusts and coordinate them together. So the product itself is really pretty simple. It's a life insurance policy, and it's called the NGL AssetGuard. And so what happens is it's a fixed rate product, so you're going to offer them what we call a growth rate. And then what they're going to do is they're going to combine that policy with the funeral trust. It's going to give them an increasing death benefit. It's simple interest that's credited daily, and it provides that financial protection for their final expense planning. So the individual state limits that we talked about, I will always encourage you to check once you're licensed. It's a very agent-friendly website, and actually their 1-800 number, if you call in, you will get a live person, and they're very good at answering your questions. But always look and make sure you're up to date on what your state limits are, because as we know with government, as we very well know with the government, they can change course anytime they want to. So again, we'll take a look here. Here's what it looks like in the different states. You can see in Ohio, which is where I'm at, $15,000. We also do a lot of business in Indiana and Kentucky. So we've got the limits here for you. You can take a look and see what your state looks like. Now, I will say this, with a state that there's an issue in Florida that we're looking into right now, but with most states, even if you can't do the funeral trust, which you should be able to do, but if you couldn't, you could still do the estate planning trust and use that as a trust to protect money. Even if you're just doing $15,000 for a funeral home, you would just have to go through the 5-year look-back period instead of it being excluded immediately. So on the next page, Mark, we'll just skip through that because we just talked about what the maximum policy is. We get this question a lot from clients, what's paid by the irrevocable funeral trust? You can see in there everything down to the transfer of the deceased. So you got a client that's got money in the plan and they die down in Florida, but they live here in Ohio, and they need to get the body back here to Ohio. The plan will pay for that. I have a very good friend of mine that actually I have a meeting with on Monday that is a funeral director. He doesn't work for a funeral home. He actually does the prepaid plans for the funeral homes, and he funds them with National Guardian Life. But he told me that the funeral homes now are very hesitant on even guaranteeing the cost, because that was the big lure to do it with a funeral home. You're getting your costs guaranteed at today's price, but there's a lot of things now that they won't guarantee just because the prices of goods and services continue to rise in that business. So with this one, you fund it to the max, the $15,000. You're getting the growth rate so that it's trying to keep up with that inflation process as you move forward. So for today's purposes, I'm going to talk about the single pay because that's all we do here at our company. We do strictly single pay asset guard programs that go into either the funeral trust or the estate planning trust. We can write a minimum face amount of $500. Some people may laugh and say, well, who would put $500 in one? You wouldn't believe the number of people now that want to be cremated. And so, they may go the cheapest route and say, hey, I just want $500 for my cremation, and we can also go all the way up to $100,000. The growth rate on there where it says 1.5%, you pick your growth rate for your client. We do 2% for every client across the board. That way, if anyone ever came back to us and said, well, why'd you give Mary 2%? You only gave Bob 1.5%. We can say we keep it uniform for all of our clients, but that's up to the individual producer how you run your business. So the health question on the application question, you can write people from 0 to 99. Obviously, the younger they are, the higher the commission. The older they are, the lower the commission, but that's probably good because at 99, if you have a chargeback, you're probably not going to get hit that hard. And it's funny because I have seen more applications in the last 6 months on people in their 90s than I've probably seen in the last 6 years. So again, people are talking about it, and they are writing deals through this program. So you'll love the health question. The health question is one health question. You're either going to answer yes or no. It's either going to be a standard issue or a guaranteed issue. It does not affect the way the policy's paid out. All single pays are immediate full death benefit. So you're going to get that daily simple growth, and if the client passes away, the full benefit is paid out. Again, it's just we're trying to figure out, are they a healthy person or are they not? And in the training, I'll show you the importance of that, because if you have a client who, let's say their spouse is in a nursing home right now and they're in that process of spending money, you can actually have the spouse sign for the spouse who's in the nursing home. You don't even have to see them. If they're a guaranteed issue, the family member with an insurable interest can sign for them. You don't even have to see the client. You can get the money off the table for the client. So again, that's that. Other product features, this I call a bell and a whistle. I won't spend much time on it. You can add a rider to any policy you write. It's a $10 one-time fee. It gives the client a $3,000 or face amount, whichever is lower. So if they bought a $500 policy, it would only be $500 that they would be covered for with this rider, up to $3,000. And then it covers all their grandchildren or children 6 months to 18 years old. And if one of them passes away while the policy's in force, so your client's still alive, they will pay a one-time death benefit to whichever one of those passed away, and then the rider's over. So it's not per child, it's just per the first one that would pass away while they own the policy. So again, all that's available on the website for National Guardian Life. Here's my favorite part. I know many of you may be in the annuity business. Maybe you're writing single premium life policies. Maybe you're an advisor managing money. One thing I can tell you for sure, I just did an application the other day for an annuity, and it was about 36 pages. And with this one, it's literally 2 pieces of paper and your state replacement disclosure, and you're done. There's no suitability. Now, I will say on that, you should always do what's suitable for your client, no question about it. It's how we run our practice. But there isn't a form where you have to fill out all their assets and have them sign and do all of that. So very simple. Here's the first page of the application. It's really just gathering the basic information from them, marking down which interest rate that you're going to give them, and then answering the health question. So that's what it looks like on the first page. On the bottom of the page, again, is going to be where the applicant is going to sign. And then there's also a part on the page that is going to this would be a receipt for them. So if you pick up cash, you can leave them a receipt until you get them the contract. And then this next page is pretty important. because this is the actual funeral expense trust assignment form. So typically what happens when you write them the funeral trust, 45 days after issue, it is automatically put into this trust. But on the next page we're going to look at, this is the bottom of that form that we were just showing you. And this is if you have someone who's in a nursing home right now and you need to get this money off the table today because they are going to be applying for Medicaid, you can waive the 45 days and have the money or the policy put in immediately to the funeral trust. So again, it's a great crisis planning tool. So talk a little bit about how we present this to clients, and it's important because this is where the rubber meets the road. What I would encourage to anybody that gets newly licensed with National Guardian Life is when you do your annual reviews, and if you haven't done annual reviews or maybe you're running a little bit behind on annual reviews, this will really motivate you to get out and do it. Because you will pick up a lot of policies for National Guardian Life on the review, and here's why I say that. When you go out and do an annual review with the client, these are people that already like you, they already trust you, they've taken your advice, and they've implemented it. So you're really just sharing with them another idea or part of the planning process that you haven't got done for them yet. So what you're going to do is review the issue, discuss the needs with them, stress the benefits of planning. You can tell them that it's portable. It can be used with any funeral home. And here's an important thing. You can 1035 existing life insurance cash value into here. Let me give you an example. If you look at a policy with a client and you see that they have $10,000 in cash value in the policy, and the death benefit is $11,000. Most clients don't understand that when they die, they don't get both of those numbers. They get whichever's greater, which would be the death benefit of $11,000. So really what they did is they got $10,000 of their own money back and then an extra $1,000 from the insurance company. And what we stress to our clients is if you get sick and go in a nursing home, they're going to make you spend that cash value of that life insurance policy. That's the first thing they're going to do. So why not transfer the money through a 1035 exchange, that $10,000 into the funeral trust and get it protected and have it growing on that simple interest, then leave it lying there for a spend down if you get sick and you need Medicaid spend down for nursing home care. So again, here's the big thing. This is where we get paid. You got to close the sale. You're going to give the client that peace of mind of knowing that they've planned ahead and that you've protected those funds. And in the training, I talk about showing a client how to get it from the countable side over to the non-countable side and how they're really not buying anything. They're repositioning an asset to protect it. And that seems to move people along a little bit quicker in the process. So where do we find the money? Again, with our clients, the money is typically already there. Maybe they have a CD that's coming due. I think statistics say October is the biggest month for maturity in the CD market. This is an excellent thing if it's a CD that they don't use the interest to live off of because, number one, the money at the bank's not protected. They're getting a piddly interest rate on the money, and you can show them how to protect it and make sure that it's going to be there in the event that they would get sick and have a nursing home issue. You've got money market accounts. You've got other insurance. We talked about the 1035 exchange. You've got annuities. There's a lot of annuities sitting out there that have this penalty-free withdrawal provision that clients don't even use. And I'll talk about that in the training of how you show them how to get it out, pay the tax on it now because the tax has got to be paid at some point anyway, and let's start getting some of that money protected over into this plan. And then again, we've got savings accounts and, as we always like, is cash as well. So that's the big thing there at the bottom. The clients already have the funding. You're not looking for new money. You're just solving a problem and helping them out. So the marketing brochures, one of them that we don't have on there that we're going to try to get the slide done for the training, should be pretty easy to do. They've come out with a new one that's actually my favorite now, and I'll share that with you in the training. But the two that we use the most are going to be the one that says NGL Funeral Expense Trust and then the one that says NGL Estate Planning Trust. I will tell you of a couple appointments that I've went on. I've had the appointment with the client. The client said, hey, we want to discuss this. I left them that little brochure. They said, call us tomorrow, or I told them I'd call them tomorrow to get a decision, and before I could call them the next day, they had called my office and said, hey, this makes perfect sense. Let's move forward. So the brochures are really nice. They're just a little trifold. It doesn't put too much on the prospective client, but gives them enough information to make an intelligent decision. National Guardian Life, again, they've been around for, I think it's 105 years now. They're a very well capitalized company, and you look at the numbers on the next slide, you can see their assets, their surplus. This was as of 2012. We'll be updating this slide, but a very strong financial company. Pleasure to do business with. I just can't even express enough on how efficient they are on doing things. I'll give you an example of that. I did a 1035 exchange. I submitted the application 3 weeks ago. I got paid on it yesterday, and that was a 1035 exchange of money coming from another carrier. So they're very good at what they do. This website, we'll be updating this. This isn't what the agent website looks like. The agent website is a fantastic training website. Anything you could want or need, from a PowerPoint to a brochure to your applications, to your state limits, to ideas on how to work with elder law attorneys, that training is on there. And again, we do private training for licensed NGL agents as well. So why sell the product? Just to kind of recap what we've talked about this morning. Every one of your clients need it and are thinking about it. I always like to tell my clients that the planning we've done for them, we put the income riders on their annuity in the event that they need it. Will they ever turn it on? We don't know. That'll play itself out, but we know everyone's going to pass away, and they need to get their affairs in order. It's an excellent income opportunity for you as the agent while you're helping your client. Trust are free. No fees in the policy, and I have never never once have I ran into a situation where someone has told me, yeah, somebody's talked to me about that before. Never in 12 years of doing this have I ran into that. So no other professionals are advising your clients on this. We talked about the funds being portable. We talked about the company itself. Again, it gives your client the peace of mind, and if you don't like paperwork, you are going to absolutely love doing business with National Guardian Life with this program. And if you don't sell it, someone else will. I like to put this up there because I think it's a fair analogy. If you were doing reviews or found a way to talk to a couple of couples each month and they only did $10,000 a piece to pre-plan their funeral with you, you're talking about adding $40,000 to your annual bottom line, and you're really not doing a lot of extra work. You're just talking to the people that you're already talking to, but you're asking the question, have you pre-planned your funeral? So here's what the commission chart looks like, and I'm just going to focus on the upper left-hand corner one. That's for face amounts of $0 to $60,000 going into the plan. If you just take an average age of 66 to 70, it's an 11% commission for a standard issue, and if they're not a standard issue, it's still 7.48%. And then when you start getting into that 61 to 65, you're at 13.31%. So, for doing a review, if you can pick up a couple of these with the client, you're talking about a $3,000 review that's coming your way, getting the policy issued. Now, I will say one thing on this. If you're like me, I like writing applications, but even more so, I do it to get paid and run my business. With National Guardian Life, if you send up your application to them If I were to write one today and I sent it out to them, it would get processed on Monday, and probably Tuesday, Wednesday at the latest, my commission would be in my account. So their submission to commission is very efficient and effective. So some of the biggest challenges, obviously, is getting comfortable with the concept. If whatever you sell today, whether it's life insurance, annuities, long-term care, Medicare supplements, there was a time when you weren't comfortable with it, you were new to it, now you're good at it, you're a seasoned veteran. Same thing, you start talking about it and implementing it, and pretty soon you're writing more business than you ever thought you would because you're talking about it. During the training, we'll show you how to present it and stress the benefits of that pre-planning, and keep it top of mind every client every day. That's what we'll do. If we talk to a client, first thing we ask them if it's a new client is, have you prepaid your funeral? It's a yes or no question. If they say yes, we know we're going to talk to them about the estate planning trust. If they say no, we're going to talk to them about the funeral trust. Mark, you can move on to that next one. We developed this guide for beneficiaries, and we did this about 5 or 6 years ago. So when I do these webinars, sometimes I feel like it's a fishing story, but I think my numbers are usually pretty accurate. When we implemented this, we went out and saw all of our clients because what had happened is we had a client die, and their kids called me to tell me that mom had died. And I said, well, we need to get together because we have all this money that we need to work with. And they said, don't worry about it. The banker's taking care of everything for us. And I don't want that to happen to us again. So we developed this guide for beneficiaries. And what we did is we went out and saw our clients and got it into every household. And our successes with it were, we did about $1.5 million in additional annuity premium. We did a couple $100,000 in single premium life, and we picked up about $150,000 into National Guardian Life. And the thing with it was that we found incredible is now when clients pass away, we get the phone call because we've put this guide into their house, and you'll see by the front page of the guide that we're going to show you next, this is why we get the call. It's says it. It's a guide for my beneficiaries for help settling my estate. Please call my advisor. And then we have Inting Financial Services in there because we don't want that call going to somebody else. We want the opportunity to work with the money that's in the house. And so that allows us that opportunity. And we tell them to let their kids know that that guide is in there for their benefit. So it works really well for us. What will happen is if you become licensed with National Guardian Life, Insurance Agency Marketing Services has this in a digital format where you can take it, put your own company information on it, and get that into the houses. It's a good thing to do on your review. And you will see here it takes all their basic information. So what we're doing is we're basically going back over everything with them with this form, and as you're going to see on the next page, we're going to go back through all of their assets with them again. So we're going to ask them, where's your money at? Do you have additional funds that we don't know about, that we haven't talked about? And then there is a question, even though you can't see it on there. I don't know what happened to that page, but
we
the
lost
question
it somehow.
that's okay. It's not important, Mark. But question 8 on the form says, have you prepaid your funeral? And if they say no, we don't stop and start talking about it, but that is something that we're going to revisit, because what happens is you'll find out most of your clients, you think they've told you everything, but when you go really down through it line item by line item, you start finding out that there's some stuff you didn't know about and maybe some opportunity for you to work with. And how we end it with the client is we say, hey, if we fill this out with you, if we had never met you before and you put this in the back of your guide for the beneficiaries, we can walk in and we can help settle your estate without ever meeting you because we know where everything's at. It's organized. So again, they'll make that available to you once you are licensed with National Guardian Life. And I can tell you that my experience with National Guardian Life has been phenomenal. We continue to write business, and we'd certainly like to help show you how to do it so that you can improve the bottom line for your practice.
I think that was the end of the points too, John. I don't know what happened there. We'll have to look and see, but we lost the tail end of the presentation, so I apologize for that.
Well, one of the last ones we know for sure was questions.
And we do have a few of those. And before I go on with the questions, I just want to remind everybody, and I think, John, it's a week from Monday is when you're going to do the sales presentation.
Yes.
And so what happens is, John had indicated, once you get contracted, and for those of you who are on here this morning, if you're contracted with us, we will send you an invitation for that. But if you get your contract in prior to that date, we'll get you an invitation to go ahead and join in on this special exclusive NGL contracted agents only. So I will email you the contracting and we'll go ahead and get you set up so you can be there for that event. But our first question says, when funding the funeral trust with a $15,000 max in Massachusetts, what do you use for a death benefit? And can you go up to $25,000?
Okay, so when you use so if the, and I'm not looking at Massachusetts' number there, but let's say it's 15,000. So if you were to put 15,000 in, you do get a little bump in the benefit. So let's say that the policy is now worth 15,750 when it goes into the trust, and then it starts earning that rate, the growth rate. So if you want to do 25,000 in that scenario, you would need to put the other 10 into the estate planning trust. So you can split that however you want to. You just can't have more than 100,000 in there. So I would say to you, if I were working with a healthy client who, let's say it's somebody that's in their early 60s, I'll give you an example, teachers I just did business with, it doesn't look like they're going into a nursing home anytime soon. Even if they did, they've got enough other assets to get through the 5-year look-back period. So we just put the whole 100,000 into the estate planning trust, knowing that the first money that's coming out of there is going to get paid to the funeral home to take care of the funeral, and then that balance will go to a beneficiary instead of back to the estate. I hope that answers the question. I think I'm reading the question right.
Yep, I think so, yeah. So then John asks, so once licensed with the company, there are PowerPoint presentations available for seminar use?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions out there for John while we have him here this morning? Question box is empty. And again, while I'm waiting for you to put a question in there, we'll get that contract out to you here. I'm going to put a poll up here real quick too. This is going to be on getting appointed with NGL. So if you're interested, go ahead and mark yes. Of course, I can email this out to everybody who's on here this morning. But again, getting contracted, you'll be invited to the exclusive webinar that John's going to be hosting. And I'll tell you, it is, once you attend that webinar itself, we have really seen business go up, sales go up, because it is that helpful. And again, John's going to explain how simple it is to find the money and how easy it is to make that transition. So, I always think of it as really a nice little add-on sale to whatever you're doing. And through this personal and financial organizer that John's created, you're going to see the sales come in if you follow the steps that he'll cover in that webinar. So, great response here as far as the contracting. I certainly appreciate that. John, we did have a question pop up here. It says, the majority of the clients I work with are interested in cremation. Can you share your experience in total cost for this option?
Well, that's actually a very good question that you brought to me this morning, because I just had a conversation with my buddy I told you is the funeral director, and he said that if you go through a regular funeral home, that cost is, depending if you have a memorial service, because there's different things in there, but he said usually about $4,500. If you go to one of these standalone crematoriums, you might be able to get it done for $1,000. So even on that, what I would say to you is, if you're talking to somebody about a cremation, because obviously the dollar amount is lower, you can still have the conversation with them about, well, the first money that's going to be paid out is for the cremation. Do you want to protect any other money from a nursing home spend down, because we can put up to $15,000 in here. So I would still, again, if they just want to do $3,000, $4,000, certainly write those all day long. but if you can show them the advantage of fully funding it to get it off the table for that Medicaid spend down situation in the future, that works as well.
You know, it's funny. I'm just going to add this real quick, but you know, when we get the applications that come in the door, so many of them just go directly to the company, and once they do that, I mean, the commission, as John mentioned, is paid to you that same week. So there really is no underwriting involved. It is so fast. You submit it, and boom, there's a check, or I should say check. There's a direct deposit in your account. So it is so fast. It's easy to make money, and again, you're helping your clients in so many ways. So I encourage you to get set up here, get appointed with National Guardian, and get on this here upcoming webinar. It's a week from Monday. John, I don't see any other question in the question box, so I think we're, well, oh, here's one. Where do we get more information about Medicaid spend down so that we can share with clients? Is this an NGL PowerPoint? Or yeah, is this in the NGL PowerPoint?
No, but that is a great question, and that's something I'm making a note here for my training seminar, so I appreciate whoever asked that. Every state is going to be different. So what your best thing to do is to Google your state. If you're in Massachusetts, you know, Massachusetts spend down rules for Medicaid, and it'll tell you on there you can't have more than $1,500 face amount life insurance, including cash value. It'll tell you what assets that the stay-at-home spouse can have. So those questions that you need answers to, they're state-specific. You can certainly find those online. That's how we did it here in Ohio when we originally set up our stuff. A great question, and you should know that because you will get that question occasionally from a client. Not every time, but occasionally.
Yeah. And some of the states, like Illinois, for example, has a different amount per county. So if you're in the state of Illinois, you certainly want to be familiar with that because you could still put the money aside, but you're only allowed to protect a certain amount. I think $7,500 in some counties, and it may vary by others, but that's just an example.
And Pennsylvania is the same way, Mark.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah.
Okay. Alan asks, can the client have access to funds, and what are the penalties?
No. And that's a great question, Alan. I go over that in the training, but it is an irrevocable funeral trust. And when I do a deal with the client, I look right at them and I tell them, this money only pays out at death. Don't call me and ask me for a loan. Don't call and tell me you need to surrender it. This is money that we're putting away for your final expenses. Are you still comfortable with this? And I make that very clear to the client. And I've been doing this for 12 years. I have never, ever had a client call me and say, hey, can I get my hands on that NGL money? I make it pretty known that we're doing this to take care of a particular situation, which is your final expenses, and it only comes out when you die.
And that applies to both trusts. I mean, they're both irrevocable. Yes. So once they part with that money, they're parting with that money. It's not theirs, so to speak, anymore.
Right, and if that's a situation where they look like they're going to need it, my best advice, again, there's not a suitability form, but always do what's suitable for your client.
Absolutely. Okay, good questions. Certainly appreciate those. We look like here's another one. I am traveling all day on the 18th. Will the training be recorded for playback at a future time? You know what? It will be. As long as you're contracted with us, we can email that over to you. So, Martha, that's a great question. I certainly hope that you opt to get appointed with us, but we will only make that available to agents that are contracted with National Guardian Life through Insurance Agency Marketing Services. So, that's simple. I'll get you the contract, and you can certainly get that over. So, contracted now. Excellent. Okay. Well, then you'll be invited, and then we'll get that over to everyone here once the webinar is completed. All right. Question box is empty, John.
Well, Mark, if I can just say something, because you always introduce me and say John took time out of his busy day to talk to everybody. I just want everybody to know that I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day because you're doing the same things that I'm doing, which is trying to run an agency and take care of what you need to take care of and be profitable. And I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to hear what I had to say.
Absolutely, totally agree. And for those of you that are interested in that webinar, what we do is we'll have that at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. And I would say it'd probably be about an hour. That's about how long it usually runs.
Yep.
So, Okay, well, you know what? I certainly do appreciate everybody attending. And if you have any questions, you can call our office. And the number here, if you got a pen handy, is 800-255-5055. And just ask for anybody in the life marketing department that can help you with that. And again, I will be emailing you the contract. So if you could, once you receive that, get that completed, you can email that back to me. And of course, I'll have those instructions when I send out the email. But again, John, certainly appreciate the time you spent with us this morning. And we look forward to speaking with you all here over the next few days. We'll be following up with a phone call. So have a great weekend.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.